said, today's webinar is SharePoint 2013 Migration Made Easy with Lynn Dacey and Chris Kay. I won't attempt the pronunciation. Lynn is a sales account manager at Metaviz. She's had 20 years experience working in the technology industry. She worked for Motorola, Lucent Technologies, Intel, McAfee. Wide range of sectors she's worked across as well. So that's Lynn. And Chris, he works for Metaviz, same as Lynn. What basically Chris doesn't know about Metaviz isn't worth knowing. So what we'll be doing is we'll be answering questions at the end. So please post your questions in the chat window. That would be great, and I'll field those. And without further ado, I'll hand over to Lynn and Chris. And just to say, this is very much a slide deck light, demo heavy session, so I hope you enjoy. So Lynn, Chris, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. And yes, thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Lynn Dacey. As Dave mentioned, I'm the Sales Account Manager here with Metaviz Technologies, and we're here to talk about SharePoint 2013 Migration Made Easy. What we're going to be doing today is highlighting one of our suites. That will be our Architect Suite product. I just have a couple background slides here just to tell you a little bit about Metaviz Technologies, and then we're going to jump right into the demo today. And as Dave mentioned, please, if you have any questions, type those in the question box on your screen, and we will address all of those at the end of the presentation. So just to give you a little bit of background about Metaviz Technologies, we're a software company that has developed a suite of SharePoint tools for migration, management, security, governance, and design. We originally were founded back in 2007, where we launched our Architect product, which is one of the tools we'll be showing you in the demonstration today. This is a tool that will help you lay out and design a new SharePoint site. And then we followed that up shortly in 2008 with our Migrator product. We have a full support organization with folks based in Philadelphia as well as in Europe. And we offer phone, email, and online support. We have an extensive video library with lots of help suggestions and a best practices library online, as well as all of our user guides are online as well. And we are one of the few vendors to offer weekly updates. Every Sunday we publish an update for our products. This includes any new features that we've developed, as well as any SharePoint Microsoft updates, and if there are any bug fixes, those are introduced in our weekly updates as well. And we have well over 1,000 customers worldwide. And just to tell you a little bit about our platform, Metaviz Technology Solution is a suite of tools that makes up a single information management platform. Our solution is completely agentless. This means that it installs on the client side, so there's no overhead involved. We utilize a graphical user interface across all of our products, so it makes it very easy and quick to come up to speed using the tools. Our software supports all versions of SharePoint from 2003 all the way up to 2013, including Office 365, and we are a Microsoft Gold certified vendor. And just to give you a quick rundown on the SharePoint applications, so we, under design, we have our Architect Suite tool, which is one of the tools we're going to be showing you here momentarily, and this helps you to visually design and quickly and easily lay out a new SharePoint site. Migration, which we'll be going into today as well, and we support a lot of flavors of migration, including online, we have Google, we have public folders, help you with your Microsoft Exchange information. Under management, we have several applications, including Term Store, which is a popular feature introduced with SharePoint 2010. This provides a single interface to manage all of your multiple term stores. File Manager, which is a quick and easy way to bulk upload data and retain critical metadata, including authorship information as well. Backup, which is a very popular tool, is a simple and easy to use backup, archive, and restore tool for SharePoint. And Change Manager is really good if you have separate development, staging, and production environments. It just helps you easily manage and keep track of any changes and updates between your different SharePoint environments. And then under security, we have our Security Manager and Informant tool. We'll be going over Security Manager today. Informant is a new product that we've just recently introduced, which will help you in identifying sensitive information in your unstructured files. That would include your SharePoint information. You can search for sensitive information such as credit card or social security numbers, identify that, and then act upon that, whether you lock it down, copy it, move it. It allows you then to secure that information. As I mentioned, the products that we're going to be reviewing today in our demonstration are the tools that are included in our Architect Suite. That includes our Migration tool, our Architect tool, and our Security Manager. So without further ado, I'm going to switch to Chris, and he will step through the demonstration for you. Okay, Chris, all set.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for their time this morning or this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are in the world. And like Lynn said, we're going to talk about a couple of the different products today that we offer, one of them being the Architect Suite. The Architect Suite consists of the Architect product, which we have on the screen now, the Migration product, which will allow you to migrate your content, and also the Security Manager product, which will allow you to analyze and secure your SharePoint data, your lists, your sites, your content, once it gets up into SharePoint. Okay, just real quick, just to recap some of the things that Lynn said now that my application is on the screen. All of these products you see across the top, those are the ones that make up the Metavis Information Manager platform. So each of these are a part of the platform. They're all client-side, they're all agentless, they all support all versions of SharePoint, including Office 365 and 2013. Okay, all fairly lightweight as well, so it doesn't require a lot of hardware resources. A couple of gigs of RAM, a couple of gigs of hard drive space is more than adequate to use the tool for what its functionality is designed for. And software requirements, there really aren't any of those as well. So the installation itself to get the platform installed should only really take you a few minutes to do. You just run an installer, the tool installs itself, and that's all that's required. So there is no overhead, there are no agents, there are no extensions that need to be deployed to any of your servers, source or destination. And of course that does make it an ideal solution for hosted environments, Office 365 or any of the other SharePoint hosting providers out there. Okay. A couple of things just to give you a quick tour around the interface for those who aren't familiar with the product. Up in the ribbon, you have access to all the different products. So if you need to do migration, you of course switch to Migrator. Security, which we'll talk about later, you switch to Security. The ribbon for each of the products will update itself to show you the functions or features that are relevant to the selected product. Over on the left side, you have the Navigator pane. This will be shared throughout all the applications as well. This allows you to connect to a specific location within SharePoint and access it depending on which module you're using within platform. It will give you different options, but the Navigator will be shared throughout the product line, so once you connect to a location within SharePoint, you'll always have access to that across the other products. Over here in the Architect is where you're going to have your visual design environment. This will be changed to the content if we're talking about migration, or security if we're talking about Security Manager, but this is where you'll do the bulk of your work when you're working within the specific product you're in. Okay. Also down here at the bottom for the Properties tab is the internal properties that are available within your SharePoint environment. Okay, so as we click through the different products, you'll see the interface update itself, but for the most part, once you learn one product, whether it be migration or architecture, the same learning curve, the same features, the same functionality, the same operation is shared. So it really is a nice shared experience. You learn one product, you'll be able to pick up any of the other ones within the platform with relative ease. Okay, so with all that said, let me just jump right into it so that we don't run out of time. Starting with Architect, Architect on a high level is a design tool for SharePoint, designed specifically for SharePoint to give you a way to not only visualize how your current SharePoint is constructed, but it also provides the ability to enhance it, create new things, repurpose columns, reuse content types, those type of things. And it's all done in this visual two-dimensional rendering you have over here in the diagram view. Okay, so starting from the top level, you of course can work looking site level down. So you can connect to a site or to a site collection within SharePoint, and this will allow you from the top to see your tree structure, how all of your sites are related to one another, parent-child sites, subsites, what have you. And clicking on any of the sites that you have will also give you this information down here at the properties, so you can know what template you're using, what language pack you're using, what version of SharePoint this is. Some stuff in there that some of the development folks on the call might be interested in, having an easy way to retrieve that information. Okay, you also have options within the context menu of Architect to do certain things as well. You can leave notes if you're going to be working collaboratively. You can create new objects. In this view, you can create new subsites, so it'll give you a similar interface to what SharePoint provides. Your title, your description, your URL, and it'll give you a list of available templates. This will be out-of-the-box templates. It'll also be any custom templates you might have within that environment. So you can simply go out, create a new site, and the tool will create it for you in SharePoint and it'll provision it for you immediately. And once that process is done, it then will update this view to show you its relationship, where you create it, what its subsite is, etc. Okay. You can also go and you can open up the site diagram. So what this will do is it'll take the site that you select, and it's now going to give you a deeper, detailed view of that site to show you what is comprised within that site. So starting at the upper left, you have the ability to see all of your lists and libraries. So this is a slightly modified team site, which I have here. So you see your announcements, your calendars, contacts list. Any of these lists that currently exist within your site will be exposed. Selecting the list that you want to see, you'll have some more specific properties related to that list, templates, versioning, settings, internal IDs. You can also expose each of the content types that are currently associated to it. And you, of course, can also see the columns that are inside of each of those types. So you will be able to render a nice view of how you currently made up this particular SharePoint location. Okay, so you'll go across, you'll start seeing all of your lists and libraries. Eventually you'll get over to the far right where you'll start seeing some of your column groups. So if you have custom column groups, out-of-the-box column groups, you'll be able to see those, and of course you'll be able to see all the columns that exist within each of those groups. Down the middle, you also see your content types. Everything starting up there at System goes down to Item, and then the visual representation here of all these lines are the relationships. So everything underneath of Item, the child content type of Item, is exposed. You slide over, you'll see Document type, and again everything underneath of that. So it has, throughout this rendering, it has visual cues to represent how items are related to one another. What's a child of item, what's a child of document. Coloring fonts on the columns themselves show if it's a native to that type or if it's something that was custom created. You see it has a little bit more of a bolder font. So there are those nice visual cues throughout to give you a better understanding of how things are or where they come from, if they're inherited or if they're created on that particular level. So you have that to visualize. So step one, let's see what we have. Let's see what we need to correct if there's room for improvements. And then using this menu over here on the right, the palette menu, this is where you can go in and you can create new objects. So going one step beyond just seeing or visualizing what you have the ability over here to create. So if I want to create a new content type, for example, I just drop it into my diagram, I give it a name, and now this content type is created. Just an Architect. This has not been provisioned to SharePoint yet. This content type only exists within Architect at this time. We'll provision it later on. So after you create the type, of course, you can go through and you can set your inheritance. If you want to make it a child type of document, you can. It gives you that real-time feedback to show you which columns come with that relationship. So if you do want to experiment with different inheritance levels, you can certainly do that by just simply drawing a line between the type that you want to inherit from. You also have the option to create new lists. This would be the same way we created a site earlier. You drop it in, select your template, the tool will create it for you, and you can also create new column groups. So if you want to create a group, then create your columns inside the group, and then provision the site columns from the groups into your types. You can follow that similar workflow that SharePoint provides. The next section here is the columns. So this is where you can create custom columns. We support all the out-of-the-box column types: strings, dates, numbers, lookups, manage metadata, choices. Any of those column types that you want to create, you simply select it from this menu and you drop it into your location where you want to create it. Okay. Once you create the column, you then, of course, using the Properties tab at the bottom, you can come in here and adjust your settings. So you want to make it, this is a single line of text, I want to make it 50 characters long, possibly make it a required field. You have the same ability to customize the column settings as you would through SharePoint down here in this menu as well. Okay, some of the other nice things within the Architect product is the ability to repurpose. So if I need to move a column from one type to another or from one column group to another, I do have the ability to drag and drop and move those columns around. I can also repurpose content types or columns or column groups from a different SharePoint. Could be a different location in the same collection, different web app, different farm, different version of SharePoint. Whatever I can connect to over here in the Navigator, you will have the ability to expose your content types. You'll be able to see all of your custom content types, including the fields inside. And if I want to repurpose an entire type, I can simply drop it into my diagram. And now the tool knows when it provisions this changes to SharePoint, I'm going to take all of the properties, all of the settings from this particular content type, and I'm going to now create that for you in your new SharePoint environment. So a good way to consolidate down, possibly work with your content type hub and move some of your content types there so that SharePoint can publish those to its appropriate locations. All right, so you have the ability to do that, create or repurpose. We also have a nice search built in here. This is not a content search like fast like you would use through SharePoint. This is rather a search that's going to be based around structure. So if I need to go through and I need to search for a particular column or a particular content type, for example, I need to delete it. SharePoint tells me I can't because it's in use. This search feature in Architect will tell you exactly where that content type is in use. So I can put in my find content type based off of a particular property, and then what value am I looking for, and how the tool will go out and search and tell you every list or every column group that column's in, or every list that content type's associated to. So you can then take those results, excuse me, and you can go through and you can decide how you want to handle that objection that SharePoint's giving you. Okay, so that's also built in. Something else that's built in, and I'm not sure we have time to go through it in great depth, is the term store management piece as well, which will allow you to connect to and expose your term store through SharePoint. Okay, so it'll be able to connect into your service. If you have a single management entity service or multiples, you'll be able to access all of those. But you can visualize also your entire taxonomy, your entire term store. This is just my 1 in 365 here. You'll be able to visualize all of the structure, your term groups, each of the sets that are inside of those, terms, nested terms. If you do have statuses, translations, synonyms, deprecated terms, all that stuff will be allowed to be exposed to you in a very visual manner. And of course, like the rest of the products within the platform, you have a nice context menu which will allow you to do different actions. Migrate from one service to another, from one set to another, one group to another, create, bulk create, edit, deprecate, import, export. A nice slew of options here that will allow you to work with the term store. Okay, so similar to the way that Architect allows you to work with the sites and the lists and the columns, Term Store Manager will allow you to work with the term store in that same visual manner.
Just a quick question, Chris, that's a bit relevant.
Sure.
As you mentioned, we can drag and drop the column and move it to a different location. Will this be the same if there is a relation between two columns?
a relation between the columns or like a lookup column that's relating to a reference list?
We could ask that question, but all I've got is 2 columns. I mean, go we lookup columns.
Yeah, it can work with the lookup column. Either you can migrate the list across using a combination of the Migrator product as well, the reference list I'm referring to, so that way that the tool can reconnect the lookup to the reference list. But if a column referencing another column, you can migrate them both across or repurpose them to a different environment.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Let me just quickly finish up here because I feel like I'm talking too much about too many specifics here, but let me just finish real quick here with the architect piece about how to provision. Okay, so like I mentioned very briefly earlier, when you do these types of changes or modifications, it's only in the architect product. So how do I get what I've created visually, and how do I deploy it into SharePoint? So the way we do that is through the live comparison. Live comparison you'll see throughout all the other products or some of the other products as well. And what this means in Architect is the tool is going to compare the diagram you created here versus what actually exists in SharePoint. And the differences are what you can then provision. So quickly for this example, the Metavis content type we created here obviously exists in the diagram but not in SharePoint. So you do have the option if you want to deploy that. I simply right click on it and I say go and create this in SharePoint now. So the tool will go out and build this content type for you. Okay, the government contracts type that we repurposed from a different, I think it was my Office 365 build, it actually gives you the same report. So it says it exists in the diagram but not in SharePoint. If I want, I'll go ahead and create that in SharePoint. Okay, so it'll go through, it'll identify all those differences for you. And if you want to update all of them, simply come up here to the parent level and choose Update SharePoint. So up until this moment, these content types, these columns that we've created, only existed locally within my version of Architect. Okay, so let me just close a couple of tabs down here and let me switch over to migration. So first, design with Architect. This is how the company evolved with some of these products. First, we had the design tool, which is Architect. Let me build out my sites, my lists, my content types. Now, how do I get my content into this new environment? How do I get it into this new structure and get everything tagged appropriately? So with migration, this is where the second part comes in. After I design it, now I need to move my content into that SharePoint. My content could exist in another version of SharePoint, an older version, a legacy version, a different farm, whatever the case may be. You have content in SharePoint, you want to move it into this new environment. We also support file shares, so if you have a lot of content out there on your network drives, you can of course onboard that into SharePoint, classify it, check it in, log it, have all that information available for your users. We also support Exchange or public folders, so if you have content out there that you need to migrate into SharePoint. And we also support Google Drive, so if you have some users, or maybe you have a Google Enterprise account and you're looking to shift that over to SharePoint, you can also use Google Drive as another source environment that the tool will work for to get it into SharePoint. Okay. But for today, we're going to talk about SharePoint and briefly touch on the file share piece. Right, so when I switched over to Migrator, the ribbon updated itself to show you the options now specific to migration. So you have a couple options for copying sites, copying lists, copying content, pre-migration analysis, as well as the logging information that we'll talk about a little bit later. All right, so within the Navigator, you have, of course, the shared Navigator, which I mentioned earlier. Any site that I've connected to through Architect or any other product is still available here. And you'll also be able to visualize everything. So once I do connect to a SharePoint environment, you'll be able to see the site you connected to, all of the lists and libraries contained within them, subsites beneath them, and of course you can drill into those as well. So it does give you a nice different view rather than the Architect view, which is more of a visual rendering. This gives you a nice side view, if you will, of your SharePoint environment. What structure I have from the top level all the way down to my lowest nested subsite. Okay, so you can do that to your source environment, you can do that to your target environment, as many different SharePoint connections as you need to properly migrate your content. Right? But the idea within migration is very simple. It's similar to using Windows File Explorer. If I want to move a document from one folder to another, or a group of documents from one place to another, that same philosophy is shared here in the Navigator. So if I want to move this entire collection from one 365 tenant to another, or to my on-premise 2013, I can simply select it. Or if I want to move one of the subsites, or two of the subsites, I can single select or multi-select. But simply select what you want from the source, choose copy, go to the destination where you want to migrate it to, and I simply choose paste. Okay, so what will happen there is we'll initiate the migration. This is the wizard that will pop up and walk you through the process. So it will allow you to turn on options, turn off options, decide how you want the tool to handle this particular migration. First part on the site is how do you want the site itself to be handled. The first one is a merge. So I'm going to copy my source into an existing target. So if you want to consolidate sites, you're already built out your target, your collections, your subsites, and I want to just take my source and I want to move it into that target. That's what that first option will do for you. Second option is it'll take your source and the tool will create you a new target site and then merge all your content into it. This is good for reparenting of sites, restructuring of sites, consolidating site collections, demoting site collections. I want to take this site collection, my source, now I just want to create it as a subsite in my destination. And then third option is kind of the reverse of that. I'll take that source and I want to promote it to a new collection. So this one requires a little extra permissions. This requires you to have access to central admin, obviously a farm admin account, so you can do that. Or if we're talking about 365, it requires you having access to the tenant administration for SharePoint so that the tool can create a collection for you automatically and then move the content into it for you. Okay. Choosing the option and clicking next, now you're going to have specific things you can turn on or turn off. First one being site copy level. So you have your content types. These will be your custom types, your fields, your column groups, those type of things. Subsites, if you choose to bring across the site with the subsites or the collection with all of the sites, this option will make sure it does all of those for you. You have the ability to retain your permissions on the site level, uniquely permissioned sites that you need to make sure stay uniquely permissioned in your destination. The tool can do that for you. And you have an option, an either or option here about how you want to handle your SharePoint groups. Only the groups being used that you want to include in the migration, or I want to include all of my groups regardless if they're used or not. Okay. Feature activation, turn on features, publishing. Make sure publishing is turned on for you both on the site collection, publishing infrastructure, or on the site level, the SharePoint publishing feature. Or any other feature, publishing just the most common, but even if you have other features that are available in your source, as long as they're available in the target, these two options will make sure they're turned on for you. Okay. Designer objects, if you have those, anything stored in the root of your site can be included. Site level workflows, obviously specific to 2010 or 2013, those can be included. And we'll have another option available soon where you can also, if you're moving to 2013, you can convert those older 2007 or 2010 workflows into the new 2013 style. So this will be available in the coming weeks as well. Okay, next level is the list of libraries. Copy them, copy the content, of course. With content comes item permissions, if you need to keep those. Version history, all of them, some of them, no versions. List permissions, custom views. Another option for workflows, this would be list level associated workflows, either SharePoint Designer or the out-of-the-box type approval workflows. Those can also be migrated. And then you also have an option, of course, for your info path forms. Okay, so very simply just go through and check those options. A couple of nice things in advanced. Overwrite, if you're merging a site into a site or a list into a list, do you want the tool to overwrite any content that already exists? The tool can do it for you. And of course, we also support incremental copies. This is a nice feature to have if your migration is going to be taking the staged approach. A couple of sites a day or weeks, a couple of departments at a time. Incremental copy will allow you to do the bulk of the migration in the background. So I want to move all my sites in the background while I'm performing the migration. Your users are continuing to add SharePoint content to SharePoint, modify content, version content. Incremental copy will allow you to go back and say, let me migrate the site again, but I'm only going to look for anything that's been happened in the past 5 days. So any new content that was created or those new versions that were created since I performed the initial migration 5 days ago, let's only concern ourselves with that content. So that'll be a good way to get your deltas over to your new target environment before the cutoff date. So when the users do get to the target, all of their content, their versions, their metadata, all of those changes will be there waiting for them. Okay. You also have an option here quickly for filtering. If I need to filter content, I might have 100 gigs of data. Do I really need to move all of that 100 gigs to my new environment? Or maybe I want to go through and I want to filter out content. Older content, content that's no longer needed, content that might be too large. You have some nice size parameters. Size could be important for those folks who are looking at 365, where you have that maximum upload parameter that you have to work within. So you could certainly filter out some of those larger pieces of content. Okay. User mapping, again, could be very important if you're moving between domains or if you're moving to a hosted environment, especially one that's not being federated with your on-premise accounts. If the tool can't resolve user IDs, so your user account in your source is not available in the target, there's no programmatic way that we can guess the relationship between source and target user accounts. This is just a quick way that you can tell the tool explicitly that my users in my source, these accounts no longer exist. In my destination, they're now equal to these. So it's a quick way to explicitly tell the tool, this source account now equals this target account.
Does that change the metadata as well, Chris? If someone, B Wood, had uploaded something, it was tagged as B Wood, now would it say now Brian Wood?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, anything on the target, including created by, modified by properties,
okay,
will follow this mapping. And
perfect.
Permissions as well. Yeah.
Just real quick as well, someone, and you may have heard this, but Lotus Notes?
We don't have a direct connection to Lotus Notes, no.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
The next option, the final option of this section is templates. So it's important to understand how the tool works when it creates new objects for you. If the tool is going to create a new site or if the tool is going to create a new list for you, it's going to use the same template that you used in the source. So if it's a team site, it'll create it as a team site in your target. Calendar gets created as a calendar. If you want to do something different than that, for example, you have a custom site in your source, but you want to go back to an out-of-the-box team site. Or I have a custom list, I want to go back to a document library, or something like that. This option here will allow you to do that, where you can specifically tell the tool, if I use this template in the source, I want to use this different template in the target. So similar to users, but now we're talking strictly about templates. This also works with language IDs as well. So if I have an English 1033 site, I want to go to a Spanish site, which I think is 1040, or French to English, or whatever you want to do. You can also map language IDs as well. Okay. And then the last group of options here is the basic look and feel. This is what any user with the right permissions in SharePoint can come in and do changes to. Your title, your quick launch, navigation in your publishing sites, top link bars, those type of things. Whatever one of these are checked or enabled, the tool will go through, it'll read whatever you've done in that source, and it'll rebuild it for you in the target. Okay. The one thing to note here is the site themes. Themes have changed in 2013. They no longer have the same type of themes that was available in 2000 and 2010. So site themes are not translated into that new theming engine that SharePoint 2013 has in place. Okay. The last option up at the top here is profiles. Profiles are simply a predefined set of options. So we have the default profiles that we have loaded into the tool, but if you need to go through and have a custom set of options, maybe I always need to have these two checked, then you can certainly create your own custom profile, set it as default, or just hit that drop down, and that'll allow you to select your predefined set of options. gives you consistency throughout your migration. You don't have to go through and make sure you check off all those boxes. They'll be ready for you. Right, but on the next page, this is the final summary, so it just reminds you of your source, your destination. Make sure you are going the right way. We've had a few people in the past who've accidentally gone the wrong way. So just take a second or two here and just make sure your source and your destination are correct. And then your different options here, yes and no, indicating what you decided to include and not include with this particular migration. Okay. We do support scripting. So if you guys would rather do PowerShell or command line, the tool certainly supports that. For this particular example, it was a copy site, excuse me, which means it's going to copy a source into the target. You can define your source. You can define your target. Of course, you want to define your credentials, source and target user accounts. And then at the end here is your different parameters. So it's important to understand here that whether you do it through the interface, checking your boxes, loading in your sites, or whether you want to just write a simple one-line command here, you'll have the same type of options, the same features, ultimately the same results. It's just a different means to execute that particular migration. You also have the option here for scheduling. So off-peak, overnight, over the weekend, you can certainly schedule these migrations to take place. Okay. Or finish. So finish will start immediately, so I want to just move this site now with these options. You click finish and the tool will start immediately for you. Okay. As it does progress through, you'll have a real-time progress bar here in the progress tab. It'll show you what it's doing at the time. A couple of things to point out, the tool is multi-threaded, so it does not do things one at a time. It can do things in parallel to one another within the same migration. Okay. It also can support parallel migrations, so that means that it could do one migration or it could do two or more. So if I want to do two migrations in parallel to one another, I can. If I want to do 3 or 4, you certainly can do that. With the multi-threading per operation, you can start to see things can start to add up. So things can be done very quickly. If you're on a tight time frame, you can certainly do more things within the same application, and the tool will process them all for you until it reaches the point where it's using up all the resources. Okay, so it will allow you to do things very quickly if you're on a tight time frame. All right, post-migration, real quick here, you do have the ability for logging. So everything that the tool does will be logged, and it will be available post-migration. So if I move a single file or if I move a 10 gig site collection, you'll always have the ability to view the log. The log will give you information in the header about what your source and target were, the operation, when you started it, how long it took, total size, number of items that were processed, and then the important part down here is row by row what the tool did. So it'll show you the day and the time, the operation, features, create your content types. Everything was successful so far. That's why we see green checks. As you continue to scroll down, your lists will be grouped together. So if I have a concern about my announcement list, I can expand that, and it'll show you everything that it did specific to copying that announcement list. If there are any issues, you'll start to see these little red underlines. What that means is that the list was copied, but you had an issue inside, so you can certainly go in and explore any issues you had. It does give you full URL to the source item, so you know where that particular object or item is located, and it also gives you a message to help you identify what the potential issue was.
Just quick, Chris, on the subject of migration. One more question. Once the site is migrated from 2010 to 2013, will it have a 2010 look or a 2013 look?
It depends on what you bring across. So if you choose to bring across the master page has some styling in it with 2010. It can certainly look like 2010. If you're moving a team site from 10 to 13 and the tool's creating it for you, it's going to create a 2013 team site.
Yep, I even once saw an Office 365 look like SharePoint 2007, which was weird, but yeah. Thank you for the answer.
Sure. And then, of course, everything else within this log file is also grouped together. So this was in a collection, so I'll see all of my subsites and sites. You can also expand all of those and see if you have any issues. There's also a nice filter at the top which will allow you to just drill down into failed items, for example. So I only am concerned about the handful or dozen or so items that may have failed. I can certainly select failed, and then this view down here will only show you those items that failed. Okay, you can also save the logs out if you need to generate a report or email it to somebody else. You can load it back in, and we do keep a history built into the tool. So every migration that's performed will be logged, will be stored in the tool, and you can, using this history button, go back and pull in any other operation that you performed in the past and review the logs. Okay, so those will always be stored for you until you go through and manually delete them if you choose to. Okay, a couple other things real quick is site and list copy. Of course, that's supported as well. Process is the same, single select or multi-select if you want to do a few at a time. Copy from one, paste to another. But the general idea is the same. Select what you want to, paste it in there, and you'll have this wizard that'll come up, and it'll give you similar options, a few less in this case because we're not talking about the whole site, we're just talking about a list or a few lists. But you have similar options here for your content types, your permissions, your versions, your workflows. All that stuff is available. The unique thing about this type of migration is when you do filtering. You see now the filtering engine is much more specific. You do have the ability to filter off of any column that's available within that list, custom column or out of the box. So this is a good way that if you need to split a large list into a few smaller ones, or if you need to consolidate a few lists into one larger one, this will allow you to do that type of operation. And now you can say, yes, I want to move the list, but I only want to include content that has this metadata applied to it. So a good way to perform a couple of different operations there with regards to copying lists or consolidating lists or splitting apart lists. Okay. But it does support scripting and, of course, scheduling and, of course, finish if you want to do it right now.
Just a quick follow-up question while it loads. Oh, that didn't take long to load up. After migration, this is the same person having optioned. After migration, do the users have option to keep look and feel of 2010 or 2013? Will users get that option if we migrate using MetaViz?
You're talking about the
yeah, the master
update?
page. Yeah, no, the master page move. Previously,
yes.
You said the master page, so you can just keep that master page if you wish.
Right, right. If you want to switch master pages, if it's a publishing site, you can certainly do it through the interface. If it's not, then you can do it through Designer.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Final level for the migration piece is, of course, item level. So you do have support for sites, subsites, etc., lists, multiple lists. And if I want to just go inside of a list, I can double-click on any one. It'll expose the content. You have access to your views. So if you want to look at a particular custom view, you can. But the idea, again, very simple. Select what you want, single select, multi-select, copy it from one, go to your target, and simply paste it there. This will allow you to move just the items within that list. And what this wizard provides is the ability to do modifications to the metadata. So this is where you can come in and you can say, I want to apply a different content type to my documents or my items. And when I apply that different document type, I also want to work with the metadata. I want to take column A from my source and I want to map it to column B in my target. Or I want to enrich my data with new metadata values. You certainly can do that. New choice values, new single line of text, manage metadata. This is nice if you're coming from 2007, for example, which didn't have managed metadata, of course. You've set up your term store, you set up a couple of fields. Now I can come in here and I can quickly apply a term to my content. Okay. It'll also work if you want to convert a lookup value or a choice into a term and have that term apply to your content. It can do that transformation for you as well. Okay. Or, like I mentioned a moment ago, you can also map columns. So I have access to all of my columns from my source environment, including my folders. So if you have folders, nested folders, you'll be able to access those and provide that ability to map it into a SharePoint column. But the idea is simply like anything else. select what you want from your source, and now it's going to copy that value from my source column and map it to this target column. So it provides that one-to-one column mapping for you. Really quick, you also, the authorship properties, created at, modified at, created by, modified by, these are also available. They can be retained. They are retained by default, and they can be retained if you choose to as well. So that keeps all your version history intact. Okay. A couple more advanced options here: overwrite, permissions, incremental, all that stuff is available with your scripting. With CSV files, we do support this type of migration using a spreadsheet. So you can put in the spreadsheet, I want to move content from here to here, and apply this metadata. It certainly works for you there.
Just real quick, Chris. Someone said Chris showed an error on migration that the content type was missing. Does that imply that migration needs to occur in an order where certain objects should be migrated first, then others?
No. No. The tool takes care of any type of those dependencies. So if you have, going back to that earlier example, the lookup column and a reference list, it'll make sure that the references gets migrated first, then it goes back and links up that particular lookup column to point to that list. It takes care of all that. If you have groups owned by another group, it'll do two-pass operation to make sure that the proper ownership of your groups is established. The only thing that you would need to be conscious of is if you are moving 10 to 10 or 10 to 13 and you have managed metadata fields, make sure that the term store itself, those term sets or the groups, are migrated to your destination so that when it creates your managed metadata fields, it can anchor it to the appropriate term set. And you could use our tool to do that, or you could use manual process or any other process out there. But it's important to get your term store across first. And we have some of those type of guidelines on our site. So if you want to go to our site, look in the resources section, some best practices or how-tos, which gives you some considerations to make before you embark on a type of migration like that. But for the most part, the tool handles things in a logical order for you. Okay, so let me just show one last feature here within the tool, and that's the live compare function. Live compare is great for pre-migration or post-migration analysis to help you validate or piece of your validation process. So you can go through and you can identify if you have differences. So this will go out and look at your column groups, your content types, your lists, permissions, term stores, if you're talking about 10 or 13, groups, web parts, and if there are any differences between your two selected objects, this is where you'll be able to visualize them, and you'll also be able to take action against those using these controls: copy left to right, copy right to left. Okay, so once this goes through and processes, again, this is all real time, so it has to go out and look at all your lists. You'll get those results visually for you. Okay, so we also have a full compare, which was supposed to be designed to be a little bit more of an in-depth analysis and actually generate you a report that you can view offline rather than seeing it here real time through the interface. Okay, so real quickly here you see an announcement list. It exists here and not here, so I can copy it left to right, vice versa, right to left. If they exist in both places like this project list, I can expand it. You can see differences in settings. This version's major minor, this one's major only. Differences within the content types or the columns. Both have a project lead field. This one's text, this one's person or group. You can look at the content itself, see if there's differences in the content, missing views. We'll also be able to expose. So it's just a nice way to select two objects and see visually if their differences exist. And depending on what the differences are, you have the options here to take some actions against those. Okay, quick compare is what we just ran. Full compare gives you a little bit more options, and of course it gives you that report. So it runs in the background, generates your report that you can then view or load back into the tool if you want. Okay, let me switch over to Security Manager. I spoke a little bit too long there in the migration piece, so let me just round it off here with Security Manager. This product is designed to help you secure SharePoint. So there's a few things you can do. You can visualize, so much like Architect, similar to migration, where you want to visualize different aspects of SharePoint. You can visualize your security model as well. This tool is all real-time as well, so it's not using cache data from last night or last week. When I go and I say show me the permissions, it's going to retrieve permissions from SharePoint, and it's going to show you how they exist now at that moment. So you'll see all your users, the permission levels, SharePoint groups, membership, domain groups, membership of your domain groups. As long as you can authenticate against your AD or your LDAP controller, you will also be able to expose the membership of your domain groups. Okay. Permission levels, SharePoint groups. It'll show you all your groups. You can do group maintenance or management. I can add users to groups. I can edit groups. I can delete groups. I can delete users from groups, or similar to similar to the migration, you can single or multi-select the users and move those between groups as well. So a nice well-rounded maintenance tool or management tool for your SharePoint groups. You also have the options here for taking actions, creating permission levels, groups, granting permission, add users to groups, transfer and clone permissions. If I have a user who's left my department, or they retired, or they quit, the person who comes in to replace them probably needs the same access. So I can simply put in one user, put in the new user, and the tool is going to go out on the site, the list, the item level, and transfer permissions from user A to user B. Okay. Or you can do it on a mass level if you have more than one user that you need to transfer from one to another. Okay. Or just the other half, the second half of the equation. Let me just remove them. I don't need to transfer. This person is no longer with the company. They're not being replaced. I just need to clean out SharePoint and get rid of their access to that account. So I can do just the removal process as well. Right. The analysis piece, real-time analysis, you have access to permissions given to a specific user. So if I put in a user or a group, this will tell you exactly what access they have to the location that you selected. Site level, list level, and item level access if you have that enabled. Users with permissions to object is going to be the reverse. This will show you all of the users. It'll ask you to authenticate. It'll show you all of the users who have access, and also the way that which they got access. Direct permissions through SharePoint groups, through AD groups, nested groups. You'll be able to see all of that within this view, and you can also save that outside if you need to as well. So if you do need to run the report and then email the results to somebody, you can export those. Orphaned users, if you have users who've been deleted or disabled in Active Directory, this will show you those users that have been left behind in SharePoint. You have a real-time analysis report for inheritance. So I can go out and I can see where inheritance has been broken, site, list, or item level, and single click or multi-select you can reestablish, or single select, multi-select, you can also break permissions. So if you do need to go through and clean up some broken permissions, you certainly can. If you have a uniquely permissioned item, for example, I can right-click on it, I can show permissions, and now it's going to show me who has access to that item, the level of access they have, and again you have the option to delete or edit. So Betsy should not have contribute, she should only have read. I can make that quick change, quick click finish, and now the tool will go out and make sure that she no longer can contribute, she can only read to that particular item within your calendar. Okay, so you have all that within the analysis piece. And then the last one is live compare with the security manager flavor to it. What that means is that we're not talking about content, we're not talking about settings, we're talking strictly about security since we're in the security manager tab. So this is where you'll be able to compare site level permissions, list level permissions, item level permissions, as well as permission levels and your SharePoint groups as well. So the same functionality, it's just modified to reflect the fact that we're in Security Manager, not the migration or the Architect product. Okay, so I think I'm just about out of time. Dave, if there's any more questions in the last few minutes?
No, I think you've answered all the questions, Chris.
Okay. Good.
So, Lynn, would you like to leap back?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Chris. That was a fantastic presentation. And I just wanted to wrap up the presentation today. Oh wait, actually I just see one more question just popped up on the screen here if we can answer quickly. Is the software installed on the SharePoint server?
This is a completely agent-less solution, so it will be installed to a client machine. It could be your workstation, some workstation, but it does not have to be installed on the server, nor does any agents have to be deployed to the server for it to be full functional.
Great. Thank you for that answer, Chris. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. As you can see, Chris just barely scratched the surface on our products that we took a peek at. So if you would like to learn more about any of the products or any of the other products that MetaViz has, please reach out to us at sales@metaviztech.com. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
That was great. Thanks, everyone.